Hi, I'm Aiman, and welcome back to one of my auto repair videos. Now, working on this Honda Insight 2010 hybrid, we've done a lot of operations. For example, we've taken out the knuckle, we've shown you how to replace the rotor and the caliper on the other side, but now we're going to get back to basics. We're going to do a dedicated video just for the brake pads. This is going to be a very simple operation, but before we start this, we're going to talk about the brake fluid. Before we do this operation, we want to make sure that this brake fluid this cap is loosened, and that we also have the fluid capped off so that we don't overflow. Now obviously you can see that the brake fluid is overflowing right now, and that's because we already did a brake job on the other side of the car, but we'll talk more about this later. Right now let's get back to the brake pads. In order to take out the brake pads, we're first going to need to take out the brake caliper. On most cars they're going to be required to take out these two top and bottom bolts that are holding it in. However, on this car, this Honda Insight, theoretically, we should be able to take out only the top bolt. Now, what I mean by this is, while I'm taking it out, is that... Hold on. Wrong way. So what I mean by this is that, basically we're just taking out the top bolt, but we're loosening the bottom bolt so that it can swivel down. On most cars, you'd have to take out the entire caliper in order to access the brake pads. So this one's out. We're going to loosen the bottom one. And then we'll see that we should be able to swivel it down. Unless the cable stops us from doing that. And it appears that it does. Alright, so as you can see, that theory didn't work out well, but let's try it with the top bolt because maybe the cable won't prevent us there. So we're going to put this back in and unscrew it and screw it back in. Now, just keep in mind that as we screw this back in, that this part right here, the square part right here, will probably rotate, so we're just going to put a wrench on this side to stop it from moving once we do tighten it. I might be moving a bit too fast, but just to clarify, this wrench right here is for when you're actually tightening the top bolt, which is when we're putting this caliper back on. But essentially this stops the square part from moving. So we don't have to worry about it right now. Let's get to the bottom bolt and take it out. Now, hopefully because the cable is not constraining it here, it should work if we just bounce it on this bolt. If it doesn't come out by itself, you might have to hit it a bit with a hammer in order to vibrate it out. But as you can see right now, if we just bounce it like this, then it should be fine. Alright, so let's take a look at these brake pads right here. You can see they're actually a bit damaged right now. Part of that was because we actually tried to remove them before and they broke a bit because these brake pads were essentially welded in. And the reason why that happened was because this is my brother Oscar's car, right? And he got into sort of an accident where the wheel actually spun off, and as it spun off, it actually caused this to tighten up. So that's why it basically welded shut. Just to clarify, I meant the tire came off instead of spun off, but if he was on the highway, then it just rolls off. I just confused you more. Don't worry about it. Anyway, we're gonna take out these brake pads. So in order to do that, if we pry out here, it's just gonna end up breaking the brake pad. Instead, what we want to do is we want to sort of chisel it out at this angle. So a little here and a little there. Just taking out the brake pads. Same thing on this side. Alright, so I don't want it to grind at the bottom. You can see right there it's making a contact point, but if we pull it out from here, hopefully it shouldn't grind it. There we go. So that's also what my dad suggested, just pull it out from the top. And as you can see, this is the outside, and let's put the inside one. This is the inside one. You can tell they're different because the inside one has a notch that's facing towards the inside of the car. Alright, so now we're going to put the new pads. And like I said before, the outside one should have no notch on it, and the inside one should have a notch on it. Now, some new brake pads come with lubricant I've seen most people don't put lubricant on, but you can put lubricant to make it easier for you to take it out when you do need to take it out. We're actually going to put some lubricant. Not too much though, because this is lubricant and we are working with a brake system. The brake system is meant to stop, so we don't want to put lubricant on the brake system. We want to only put it at the contact point. I'm not sure if I explained that correctly, but this makes things less friction. We want more friction. Now obviously before you do the lubricant job, we have to take out these old metal parts right here. And in order to do that, you just pry them out. You can try taking them out by hand actually. And they come off just like that because they're like these thin metal pieces. And both these parts should be the same. Because making different parts would be more expensive. So don't worry about that tangent. All I have to do is replace them with new ones. So I have one here, and alright, so I had one here and the other one was on the other side because we did a great job on the other side. But anyway, as you can see, when you compare these two, they look basically the same. So that means we're just going to put them on, and it's pretty intuitive where they go. And then you just want to pop them into place. Alright, so now we're going to apply the lubricant. So not too much. I mean, we could probably put like a little dab and then smush them out after. Now, you might be looking at me doing this and wondering, well, if you're going to put lubricant here, why don't you put it on the brake pads themselves? And that's actually a very good idea. Thank you for that. We're actually going to put them on the brake pads. So this is the inside one. I already put it on the outside. So I'll just put it here. And I'm going to take a tissue after and then just wipe it around. Okay. There we go. Okay. Let's put the inside one on. So we're going to start at the top because the top might be loose. And then we're going to pivot it into the bottom one. Okay, top one. Now the bottom one. Alright, so we finally got it in. It might have been harder for me because I was on this side and I was trying to bend over in order to see it for the camera. But on this side, it should be relatively easy. So first, we're going to angle it in. We're going to have to angle it around this little bar here. So just keep that in mind. And then we're going to on the bottom. So as you can see, this is already a lot more easier when you're actually facing the angle that you're putting it on. The next step is to make sure that it's flush with the surface. And as you can see, I already did it by hand. But if you didn't do it by hand, you just take a screwdriver and a hammer and then just tap it lightly. Alright, so the next step is we're going to put this caliper back on, but before we put that on, you'll notice that if we do try it, it's not going to fit. The reason why is because of this piston right here. It's extended right now, and we have to make sure that it's not extended. And the old way to make sure that it's not extended is to use a clamp and a brake pad. And what you do is you put the brake pad up against the piston, and then you put the C-clamp around it, and then you tighten the C-clamp. But we have a new nifty tool that my brother Asfa bought for my dad, and that is this ratcheting tool right here, which you put in between the piston and the these two bars, and then this is the magic. As you turn it, as you turn it, you'll see that it's going to push out. Pretty cool, right? So now we're going to loosen this, and you'll see what difference that made. So as you can see, the piston is now not extended. Alright, so now we're going to flip this over, angle it so that it can go on, and then we're going to put the bolt back on. can put lubricant on this if you want, but we're just going to tighten it by hand. And now, let's talk about torque specifications. So the torque specification for these two bolts is 16 to around 23 foot-pounds. And that's basically like a snug fit. So we can't even use this Milwaukee. This Milwaukee is around 33 foot-pounds, so we can't use this. So we're just going to use a tiny little ratchet like this. There we go. That's a 12 millimeter. Okay. That's a 12 millimeter. Righty tighty, lefty loosey. Okay. And now, on the bottom one, we don't have to worry about the. Okay, so you can see that the square piece right here, it doesn't look like it's turning. But if you want to stop that from turning, okay, so we have a snug fit. If you want to stop that from turning, we'll go back to what we did before and put the wrench. Now we'll tighten it. So you'll see that that square washer doesn't even turn at all. So don't use too big of a torque wrench don't use too big of a socket wrench, because if you use too long, then you're probably going to end up putting too much force on it and breaking it. These are aluminum bolts anyway. Alright, so finally, we have them set in. Okay. Alright, so now that we're done with this, we're going to deal with the overflow. Now, some ideas on how to deal with this overflow is, first off, this is a less recommended way, but you can use a syringe. In our case, it's less recommended because syringes might be contaminated. You don't want to contaminate the brake fluid, but if you do have a clean syringe, then feel free to use it. The alternative method is to use a wad of paper towel, or many of them. Just wad it up and then dip it in. And then you want to dispose of that safely in a paper towel. I just realized my gloves might be contaminating, so I'm going to try to touch it with the part that's not contaminated, so keep that in mind. Alright, so now we've taken out enough liquid so that it's below the max line. And after that, all you have to do is just put the cap back on. Put the tires back on, obviously, and then pump the brakes, because you want to make sure that the brake pads actually contact with the rotor. So pump them a few times and then you should be golden. So I'm Aiman, and today I showed you how to remove and replace the brake pads for a 2010 Honda Insight Hybrid. And it should pretty much work for pretty much any other car. Just keep in mind that you might not be able to do the swivel trick on other cars. So I guess that's it for now, and thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and look at videos on EyeOnaiman, especially the videos that we'll probably be doing on the Honda Insight. Especially keep a lookout for the videos that we did on the other side of this car, the passenger side. We actually replaced the entire rotor, and on this side we replaced this entire knuckle right here. So go check those out, and I'll see you there. And I guess that's it. So signing out.